It's 17 and out for the Demons. The Dogs smashed some records out west and the Swans survive a controversial finish. Hello and welcome to the round so far, brought to you by AAMI. I'm Riley Beveridge. This is Kane Corns. Kane, it's been a massive weekend of footy so far, so we'll get started at the MCG. The big story, after 17 straight wins, Melbourne is finally beaten.
Yeah, didn't see this coming. What a performance it was from Fremantle. There's Schultz in the dying stages. He kicked 4. I thought their small forwards were awesome. There was a method about what they did to dismantle Melbourne after a bit of a shaky start. But here's the scenes post-game. He was the man of the moment, and what a performance it was from the Dockers, who had had a pretty ordinary fortnight.
They kicked 12 goals to 1 in the second half. How did they do it? How did they break down what Melbourne's been so good at for so long?
Well, look at their uncontested marks. Now, teams have tried to do this against Melbourne, but they've failed, and it's allowed... If you move the ball slowly, it's allowed Melbourne to get back in big numbers. But off their intercept marking in their back line, which was a real strength of theirs, they were able to shift the ball. And I thought they went just a little bit faster than the other teams that have tried to do it against them. So there's Pearce intercept mark, the pressure on the ball. Thought their small forwards brought enormous heat and enormous pressure. It allowed this. And then when they did win the ball in their back half, I thought they were able to shift the angle. So what they've been really good at is they look like they're giving you a leg rope. They almost dare you to take a risky kick, and then they pick you off. And I thought they were able to pick off Melbourne's ball movement. So this one there, he looks like that's on as he goes to kick it, and then you come in, Banfield, like just bang. So they would have practiced that all pre-season, and then their ability to get their game going off the turnover.
Fremantle had kicked 10 goals from 111 entries in the last 2 weeks. They kicked 12 goals from 30 entries in the second half on Saturday evening. You want to talk about Justin Longmuir, because this is what he said after last week's loss to Collingwood.
I'll probably give us a reality check, to be honest, because, yeah, you were right. You're right. We were riding high and everyone was getting way ahead of himself. And if you get way ahead of yourself in footy, you don't even need to get way ahead of yourself. You get marginally ahead of yourself in footy. It gives you a reality check.
So that was off the losses to Gold Coast and then Collingwood. I saw that and I thought there's going to be a response this week. So the win was set up there. Every time a coach fronts the media, you're talking not only to your supporters and the media, but you're talking to his players. And there was a response. So contested footy plus 12. They win clearances by 10. They out-tackle Melbourne despite having a lot more of the footy. So that was where it was won. And I can imagine it was pretty ferocious on the training track. I thought it was masterful coaching, because you don't hear coaches speak like that and that directly to their players very often.
You mentioned Freo's small forwards before. There were none better than Michael Frederick today. He's our Saturday star. He was unreal. He had 17 disposals, a game-high 11 score involvements, 2 goals, 2 goal assists.
Yeah, it was almost the prototype game for a small forward. I'd love to get a hold of his GPS numbers, because he covered more ground than I think I've seen any small forward cover this year. He was up at the stoppage, he was winning at stoppage, but then what he was doing really well was getting back and resetting, because if you come up to the stoppage as a half forward against Melbourne, they'll drop off and that will create an extra number. But he was so quick at resetting and getting himself back inside 50 like this. I mean, you don't get a stat for that. That's just unbelievable class. So career best game, as you said, career high disposals, 11 score involvements, and then his ability to finish. So you got Collier, you got Switkowski, you got Walters, and you found one in Frederick.
Few injuries starting to pile up for Melbourne. They've had a good run over the last couple of years. Stephen May went down with concussion following this incident. Now, he was due to play on Buddy next week, Melbourne against Sydney. Now, neither of them will be playing because he'll enter the concussion protocol.
And Logue went to him as well, and Justin Longmuir put that on the agenda even before the game. So something different, and then Fremantle had to change their plans because of this. You never like seeing that. You just got to love and admire the way that both Lever and May attacked the footy like they did there.
We'll head to the SCG now on Friday night, where Sydney survived against Richmond by 6 points. Now, if you haven't seen this, they won a free kick, the Tigers, on the siren. Chad Warner then kicked the ball into the crowd. It sparked a pretty controversial moment.
To Prestia kick from there.
Yeah, Prestia.
Prestia kick on Prestia.
Down Prestia's free kick.
Yes, from there.
Hold. Prestia, question. He kicked the ball into the crowd after he free kick. Yep. 50 metres, I think.
No, play on Prestia free kick from there. Didn't hear the whistle. He didn't know.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yep.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, Prestia, no. He couldn't have heard the free kick, okay? It's just common sense, okay? That's your line.
Yeah,
I think the confusion there comes from the fact that the non-officiating umpire made the call. So the officiating umpire who was controlling the scene didn't know whether or not it was a free kick and then didn't know whether or not it was a 50-metre penalty on top of it.
Yeah, the AFL have come out today and said it was the correct decision that was made. It's one of those ones where if it was paid a 50, the AFL would have said that was the correct decision, and if it wasn't, they would have said it's the correct decision. Look, I'm glad it wasn't paid because you can look at the dissent stuff as well. So how deeply do you want to go there? That could be dissent against Jack Revolt, which would have reversed the 50 anyway. So it depends how close you want to look at it. There's been less severe ones that have been paid for dissent this year. So in the end, I'm glad a game wasn't decided by that. And even for the rest of this round so far, we've seen free kicks paid and then shortly after players have kicked the ball away and the umpire calls it back and said, no, we probably didn't have enough time and that's not 50 metres. So right decision was made and it was a dramatic end to what was a cracking game of footy.
Now, 6 weeks ago, Sam Switkowski, when Fremantle was playing Essendon, gave away this on the half-time siren. So he's given away a free kick right as the siren goes. He's put the ball down and the umpire's pinged him for 50 metres for time wasting, even though, again, the siren's just gone. I think this is where the confusion from supporters comes from. They might think, if this has been paid, why hasn't the one on Friday night been paid?
Don't get me wrong, it's confusing. I feel like that one, maybe it was an extra second that he had before he put the ball away, and there was differences that it was the controlling umpire versus the non-controlling. So, as I said, if it was a 50, the AFL would have said, yep, right call.
Yep.
Like that one, they probably said that was the right call, and it wasn't, and they'll say it's the right call. So perhaps just a bit of clarity this week would be nice.
It's overshadowed a ripping game of footy. Sydney with 33 points down in the second quarter. Then Buddy turned it on. They kicked 6 goals straight from just 10 inside 50s in the last quarter to get over the line.
Yeah, so I'm interested in this matchup. I mean, Gibcus was awesome, wasn't he? The youngster in his first year in the first half. I just wonder if they had their time again, could they have sensed the matchup change just a little bit sooner because of the numbers you just read out in the second half? So Grimes went to him eventually, but I just get the feeling Robbie Tarrant was brought into the club for these types of roles. But unfortunately, there's a free kick again there against Gibcus. Unfortunately, Tarrant hasn't been up to the task and he's been exposed at times by forwards such as Taylor Walker earlier on in the year, and they haven't trusted him. That's the one goal that Buddy Franklin did kick to Tarrant when he went to him. So look, he's let them down in a way, but I do like the boldness of Damien Hardwick giving the youngster a go.
Yep.
But it is a balancing act because Richmond have a premiership to win this year, and then there's the development as well. So you couldn't fault what they did, but I just wonder whether you could have made just a fraction earlier the decision to change the matchup in the second half.
Buddy kicked 4 goals from 7 disposals in the second half. We mentioned earlier that he won't play next week. He's been offered a 1-match ban by the match review for this striking incident involving Trent Cotchin. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's great defence from Trent Cotchin. That's how you defend Buddy. Like, physical, not giving away a free kick, and then he's frustrated and he does that. So that's a ridiculous thing for Buddy Franklin to do. Thankfully, and luckily, he didn't make severe contact with the chin of Cotchin. You actually can't see it because of the camera angle, but he deserved a week for that. It was stupid, and it was the right call to suspend him for one.
We'll head to our AAMI clangers now, Kane. There's been a lot of talk already about umpiring decisions on this show. I want to know if a physio can get done for umpire dissent, because have a look at this. The Dockers physio on the sideline. Just look at there.
Arms out's 50, mate.
Yeah,
Arms out is 50, mate. You can't be doing that. So he's lucky that he got away with that. I don't want to see that ever again. There's a fair bit going on in this game as well. Alex Keith, he actually kicked a couple of goals.
Yes.
We'll get to this game shortly. That's probably the best he's kicked in his career. You just want to get the celebration right.
Oh,
and they definitely didn't.
Right in the noggin with Aaron Norton there. And how about this for Matty Flynn? Big Matty Flynn. It's gone through for a goal. It's one of the worst set shots I've ever seen, though.
Yep.
And you'll see a replay here, this big patch of dust that comes up. He even has a laugh about it. I think he knows it's probably the worst kick he's ever had in his career to date. So we'll stay at the Gabba, where the Lions got over the line against the Giants. It was after this incredible first quarter, 8 goals to 6 in favour of the Giants. They actually kicked 6 of the first 7 goals before the Lions brought it back.
They were so sloppy, Brisbane. Their first quarter was, they made as many mistakes and their defence was as lapsed as I've seen for some time. And I thought it would have been different after last week. You see the easy goals that the Giants were able to kick. So, I mean, they'd be really disappointed with that. and they'll address that because you wouldn't want to be doing that in finals. They were good enough to hang in there. They kicked 6 first quarter goals themselves. Link McCarthy was instrumental in that. And I just felt like every time it went in there, it looked like they were going to mark it. So the Giants' defence wasn't exactly top-notch either, but missed balls like that. So sloppy's the word that I would use for Brisbane early. They were able to regroup at quarter time, and then defensively they were much stronger. You'll see Link McCarthy again here. He was just awesome. I thought he had a real aura about him, and his aerial work has always been a strength of his, but his work rate stood out. So 14 first quarter goals.
Yep.
They put on a show. After quarter time, they were able to regain some defensive method.
Toby Green kicked 3 of those first quarter goals for the Giants, but it was a couple of incidents late in the game that you want to highlight.
Yeah, he just inspires me, really. I know it's a big word, but the contest here, they actually really hurt him. Look at the clock, 15 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. He had a real corky out of that, and he was seen to by the trainers, but he brushed them off. 3 minutes later, he does this. So the courage for him to do that when he's already hurt, and you can see how much that affected him. So the 4 goals, I just feel like he's unconditional with his effort. And I reckon the first job the new coach has is to walk in and say, enough of this 3 captaincy stuff. Steve Coniglio, you're not the captain of this club. Josh Kelly, you're not either. He's clearly the captain. So the first call the new coach makes is, Toby Green's our captain, and we're all right behind him.
We'll head to Darwin now and TIO Stadium, where Gold Coast absolutely thrashed Hawthorn on the back of a man that we spoke about last week, Joel Jeffrey. He was the Rising Star nominee last week, but he was awesome in this one. 13
disposals again, 4 marks, 7 score involvements off the back of 10. So sometimes young players, you have a really good game one week and it's really difficult to maintain that consistency. The thing I like about him is his ability to jump. So he doesn't mark that, but the second efforts and his agility at ground level, but then his composure to actually, at full speed, find a target like that. So a couple of his kicks tonight were honestly exquisite. And if he does that, if he starts to bring the defensive stuff, then players like Rankin lift around him. Rankin's stuff defensively has been questioned, and there's just the brute skill that he's got. So he's deceptively tall, 194. He can certainly mark it, but he's just as good at ground level. So they found him. How did they get him?
Yeah, it was part of the assistance package from the AFL. Everyone talks about Matt Rowell and Noah Anderson when they got pick 1 as part of that assistance package, but they were also able to pre-list academy players out of Darwin. I've texted a couple of recruiters today. They thought he would have been a top 20 pick in that draft, but they just get him through the doors for nothing. So he saw almost the forgotten side of that assistance package from the AFL. So he's going to be an absolute star for the Suns for a long time. You wanted to highlight this from Chad Wingard, though, from Hawthorn.
Yeah, I just thought it was ordinary from Chad. I mean, just have a look at him stage for a free kick here. If this isn't fined by Michael Christian at the MRO, I don't know what will be. So the ball goes out, comes back in straight away. Miraculously, he's fine. He kicks the goal, which is a great goal, and well done. But then he's got to tell his opponent that he should have grabbed the ball. I mean, I just thought, when you're 40 points down, when you yourself have played for a ridiculous free kick like that, I mean, you're not Luke Parker. You don't have the standing from a courage point of view that Luke Parker does, and you're certainly not winning the game. So, yeah, I wouldn't think that was a great look, and maybe something Sam Mitchell will address with him this week.
It was a dirty night for Hawthorn. They lost by 67 points. There's going to be a couple of concerns at match review as well. Jarman Impey, you'll see here, sticking the knees into the back of an opponent, and then Sam Frost, both of them reported throughout the game.
It was undisciplined, wasn't it? And uncharacteristic from Jarman Impey. So, look, the contact wasn't severe, but certainly a fine there. And then Frost as well. So just all in all, the frustration shone through from Hawthorn. We saw that with Wingard, then with Impey, and then with Frost. So, yeah, really disappointing night. And that's what can happen when you're a rebuilding side who struggles for talent. The effort, if it goes up and down, you get found out like they did tonight. But what a month it's been for Stewie Dew. Like a couple of really seriously impressive wins.
3 wins in their last 4, with North Melbourne to come in Darwin next week. We'll head to Optus Stadium now, where West Coast lost its second game by over 100 points on its home deck this season. Tim English, a career-high 25 disposals to go with 28 hit-outs, 8 clearances and 11 score involvements.
Yeah, and look, McRae gives him the ball. I mean, when do you see a midfielder who's a good ball user give it to a ruckman? But you can with him just because how good of a ball user he is. So, look, I reckon he's just about ready to explode if he hasn't, Tim English. Like, his ability to get back and intercept the ball in defence, but then push forward and do this, and his finishing is as good as any ruckman in the game. So, look, I'm not going to say it's a breakout game, but certainly from a numbers point of view, it was a career high, and maybe West Coast are thinking, the one that got away.
Speaking of career highs, the Dogs had 16 individual goal kickers, which was the most, or the joint most, in AFL VFL history. That's them there. It's only been done 4 times before tonight.
It was an absolute party, wasn't it? It was a goal-kicking feast, a party of goals, because 16 of them, which is the record, as you said. You'd be flat if you were McRae and Caleb Daniel. I reckon they could have got down there. And Big Sweetie was resting forward and got close a couple of times. So flat they didn't break the record, but yeah, they shared it around. They shared the love, so to speak. And when their goal kicking has been an issue this year in terms of the forward setup they've gone with, they've mixed it up a little bit. Bonts forward, Buku, Karmas, Norton. Helps when English is in the side. It just all clicked tonight against, albeit a pretty ordinary side.
Another injury worry for the West Coast Eagles. Jeremy McGovern subbed out with a back problem. We'll head to GMHBA Stadium now, where Geelong eased over the line against Adelaide. And it was down to one man called Tom Stewart in the back line and one man called Tyson Stengel on the forward line.
Get to Tom Stewart in a minute. Now, 23 goals. We've highlighted Tyson Stengel before. And that's Tom Stewart. So we're going clip for clip here. He's the recruit of the year for me, Tyson Stengel, for a number of reasons, because he plays the most difficult position on the ground. Everyone wants one, and you saw with Fremantle, you probably need 3 or 4 small forwards. You give up nothing to get him, you take a risk on it, and you're not going to be paying him much of a salary. So to get 23 goals at the halfway point of the year is a phenomenal achievement. They took a risk. They put him in with Eddie Betts, and the mentoring that has been there has worked. But his work rate, and spoke to Nigel Lappin during the week, he said he's one of the smartest footballers on their list. So incredible. And for Tom Stewart to have another 40, this guy's already a 3-time. He's already got 3 green jackets. Yep. He's probably in line to get another one. What a player Tom Stewart has been. He's 29 now, so he's not that young anymore. But I know he started late, and his All-Australian numbers for the seasons he's played is as good as any. Very efficient.
Another incredible pickup from the Cats. He had 16 marks and 17 intercepts to go with that. Matty Nick said after last week's loss to St Kilda that Adelaide's inaccuracy cost them the win. They kicked 7-13 today against Geelong. Yeah,
it's been an issue for them. So they kicked the first 5 points, and they're just so deflating. So you want to go there. They hadn't won there since 2002, I think it was. And you want to start well. And how deflating, you see there, 0 goals. 5, and they missed some easy ones. These aren't difficult shots, so Matthew Nick's put it on the agenda. Perhaps that then gets into the player's mind and you go in with this, but they're a side, they're a scrappy side, they're a competitive side, but they don't have a lot of polish. They can't afford to be starting the game with 5 points in a row, and in the end, despite having their moments in the contest, Geelong were just far too good. Just on the Cats, they've got the Eagles twice to come home.
Yep.
They got North once, and they play 5 games at GMHBA. They've won 7 for the year. Lock them in for top 4. Yep. Just lock the Cats in for top 4. What an amazing football team they've been for such a long period of time.
It's going to be a tight top 4 race. You want to speak about Adelaide's midfield and particularly their size?
Yeah, I do. I just think they've drafted the too many similar types. So that they are all shorter midfielders, apart from Haitley there, who's the exception. They're all really competitive and they're good clearance players, but they're scrappy. And so I just wonder their strategy. I mean, list builds has been in the news this week. I wonder whether Adelaide have got it right. And also a couple of their small forwards Saligo's there, he played a bit of wing today, but Ned McHenry, they're small and they're slight. You put Rowe in there, you put Murphy in there. They have a lot of similar players running around. So I'm just not sure they've got the most balanced list, and it doesn't help when you've got high draft picks like Chase Jones and Fisher Mackesy running around in the sample.
Haitley, as you saw there, the only midfielder over 185 centimetres. We'll have a look at the rest of the round now. It's punctuated by this big clash at the MCG, Collingwood-Carlton.
How many do they get there?
90,000, I reckon.
Wow.
90,000 plus.
That would signal that footy is back in Melbourne. So that's come at the perfect time. St Kilda easily take care of North Melbourne, who have had a rough week. And danger game for Port Adelaide. Rain around in Adelaide, and let's see if they can get their season back on track and go to 5 wins.
West Coast losing big today means they probably have pick 1 in the mid-season draft. That's Wednesday night on afl.com.au and the AFL Live app. Kane, thank you so much for your time.
Good on you, mate. Good to see you back.
See you next week.